Today we are going to paint one of the most detailed miniatures I have worked on in quite some time. But this video isn't really about the model, because along the way, things didn't go according to plan. What started as an attempt to create texture on the armor led me to an entirely different technique. The oil wash ended up being applied in a way I've never used before, and by the time we get to the highlights, we will end up talking about one of the most frustrating parts of miniature painting that almost nobody discusses. So let's begin. Right from the start, I wanted this model to stand out through color. Not even the base coat was safe from carrying a bit more meaning and storytelling. So I mixed in some inks into my metallic paints. In your case, you could achieve a very similar effect with speed paints or contrast paints as well. The Vallejo metal color range is excellent for this first step. While they are designed for use through an airbrush, their opacity is unlike anything else I've used, while still remaining incredibly thin. This helps tremendously when trying to reach all those ridges, recesses, and fine details while making sure everything receives a nice, even coat of paint. However, this also presented a disadvantage for my plans of a blue metallic base alongside a stippled brown metallic layer on top. While it is possible to use these very thin paints for that purpose, their low viscosity meant that the sponge absorbed a lot of paint. And while we always want to unload excess paint from the sponge when creating texture, these liquid metallics require even more effort than usual. Unfortunately, my lack of patience resulted in a finish that looked nothing like what I had originally envisioned. And the same thing happened when I moved on to dry brush some unaltered metallic paint over the armor. The goal was to brighten the raised details and polish the edges, so they would stand out from the darker metallic tones underneath. But just like with the sponge, dry brushing these very diluted metallic paints, while absolutely possible and something I've done successfully in the past, requires a little more care and patience. At the time, however, I didn't seem willing to dedicate either, and the results spoke for themselves. The textures were weaker than I had hoped for, and while moments like these can be frustrating, I have found they are often where the most useful lessons hide. I decided to try something new, which will be easier to showcase here on this pear shield. I diluted my paints with roughly 2 parts water to 1 part paint and flicked them onto the metallic surface, creating a random pattern of colored speckles. And without waiting for the first layer to fully dry, I switched to the brown ink and repeated the process. Then I went back and applied another round of each color. The result was exactly what I had been looking for from the very beginning. And to be honest, this idea came completely out of nowhere, after watching some unrelated videos about painting larger scale figures. It is funny how inspiration works sometimes. The solution to a problem isn't always found in another miniature painting tutorial. Sometimes it comes from a completely different hobby, a different scale, or even a technique being used for an entirely different purpose. Now, this doesn't mean all my previous work was a waste of time. While it wasn't necessarily worth the extra effort compared to the improvement it produced, every layer still contributed something to the final piece. Each step added a little more variation, a little more complexity, and ultimately helped guide me towards the solution that did work. And even if skipping those earlier stages and working directly from a clean metallic base would have only cost me 10% of the final result, the effort still wasn't wasted, because sometimes the value isn't in the paint left on the miniature, it's in the lesson we take away from it. From here I was back on track, inspired and excited. I proceeded to base coat the remaining elements, the blue cloth, the grey plume, and a few leather details before giving the entire model a coat of satin varnish. The reason for this is fairly simple. The inks I use are quite fragile, and the next step had the potential to damage them. That next step was my trusty oil wash, made from a mixture of black and dark blue oils, once again adding that small touch of color even within the shadows. Before mixing the wash, I left my oils on a piece of cardboard for a couple of minutes in order to absorb some of the excess linseed oil. This greatly helps reduce their drying time. Then, mixing equal amounts of each color alongside some odorless solvent, I proceeded to apply the oil wash in a manner that I hadn't really used before. I neither covered the entire model in oil to make use of the reductive technique, nor did I thin the wash enough for it to run through the recesses on its own. Instead, I went for a more controlled and targeted application, first on the larger recesses, then on the smaller ones, and finally anywhere one material touched another. This intermediate dilution allowed the paint to stay where I placed it on larger surfaces, while still being thin enough to help itself into the smaller ridges and recesses. A synthetic liner brush works wonderfully for this sort of application. Not only does it maintain a fine tip throughout the process, but its long bristles can hold far more paint than you might expect, allowing for a more uninterrupted workflow, and making it so I rarely run out of paint halfway through a section. The oils were then left to sit for around 30 minutes to an hour, so that the solvent could evaporate and the paint could begin to get a bit of a grip on the surface, before moving on to the cleanup stage. For this, I used no makeup sponges or Q-tips like I've done countless times in the past. Instead, I went back to my liner brush and, using pure solvent, cleaned the residuals where the oils had spilled out of the recesses. But let's go a bit more into detail on how and why I'm doing this. Because I gave the oils time to set, simply moving solvent around the surface won't immediately remove them, unlike what would have happened had I started cleaning them right away. It is actually through a bit of rubbing that the solvent begins to dissolve the oil paint. And by using my liner brush in the same way I would when edge highlighting, that is, placing the side of the brush perpendicular to the raised edge, it is only on those areas that the solvent cleans. But my brush isn't really cleaning the oil away, it's diluting it. And that dirty solvent then runs down and deposits itself into the nearby recesses, sort of transforming my mistakes into a very thin wash. This type of application and cleanup is only effective because this particular model has so many creases, engravings and raised details. The few flatter panels that are present were mostly avoided during my controlled application. As a result, there is very little change where the splattered ink pattern remains visible, while the recesses gain a much sharper and more defined shadow that dramatically improves the readability of the model. At this point, while the paint job is surprisingly simple, since we are essentially looking at a metallic base coat, some added color variation and a targeted oil wash, the model already looks fantastic, and a large part of that comes down to the sculpt itself. The folds in the cloth, the layered armor, the engraved details, and all those textures create natural opportunities for shadows and highlights to do their job. Good painting certainly helps, but good sculpting gives the paint something to work with in the first place. And that is actually one of the reasons I was excited to paint this particular piece. Lately, whenever I'm looking for a model to practice a specific technique, or simply challenge myself with something outside of my usual comfort zone, I have been browsing CG Trader. Whether it is a gaming miniature, a display piece, a bust, or something larger like this Artorias model, it gives me access to a huge library of different styles, scales, and sculpting approaches. And having that variety makes it much easier to find projects that keep me motivated and excited to paint. It also means that whenever I want to practice a specific skill, I can usually find a model designed around exactly that challenge. If you would like to take a look for yourself, I will leave a link to CG Trader in the description below. But I wasn't done yet with this model. While it already looks good, just like those targeted shadows increase the definition and readability of the miniature, adding highlights to contrast against those dark tones will not double but triple the effect. And while it might be tempting to follow my dark blue by simply moving towards a brighter blue, I instead mixed in a grayish tone in order to slightly desaturate the model and preserve the grimdark atmosphere I was after. As always, when highlighting, the best course of action is to use an older brush to mix your colors and water until you reach the consistency you are after. Then, once you're happy with the mixture, load the proper amount of paint into a separate brush that still has a fine tip. There is a lot to talk about when it comes to this process, and many beginners overlook some of the fundamentals. In fact, I have an entire video dedicated to paint dilution that I strongly recommend checking out if you are new to the channel. I will be leaving it linked above. But assuming you have already gone through the correct preparations and have your brush and paint ready for this final, precision-heavy step, let's talk about the part of highlighting that nobody really discusses. And no, I am not talking about placing your brush sideways, which you're probably tired of hearing by now. Some viewers have told me, even when I place my brush sideways and dilute my paint the way you explain, this step just doesn't work for me. And to be honest, I understand exactly what they mean, because there comes a point in painting where the problem is no longer knowledge. You know what you are supposed to do, you understand the theory, but the challenge becomes doing it consistently. Highlighting is one of those skills. not because it is particularly complex, but because it asks for the same thing over and over again. Focus, patience, control. On a model like this, there are no shortcuts. Every fold of the cloth, every armor plate, every raised edge, they all need individual attention. And if I'm being honest, that is slightly at odds with advice I have given in the past. I have often talked about focusing on what matters most and avoiding unnecessary work, but different projects ask for different things. Sometimes the goal is efficiency, sometimes the goal is growth, and growth usually lives just beyond the point where we start looking for shortcuts. The reality is that even if I prepare my paint correctly, load my brush correctly, brace my hands and use the side of my brush exactly as intended, I still have to make the stroke, again and again and again. And that part never goes away. It is easy to look at a finished model and assume the difference comes from talent. But most of the time it comes from repetition. Thousands of tiny brushstrokes that nobody talks about because they aren't particularly exciting. They are just necessary. And while painting like this can sometimes feel repetitive, I have found that it becomes much easier when I stop thinking about the finish line. Instead of painting to be done, I paint, to focus on the next highlight, the next edge, the next small improvement. And somewhere along the way, what began as practice becomes relaxing. A year ago, I probably wouldn't have taken on a project like this, not because I didn't know how to highlight, but because I didn't yet trust myself to sit through the process. And that is something I think many painters underestimate. Skill isn't just knowing what to do, it is trusting yourself to keep doing it, even when the results are not immediate, even when the progress feels slow, even when there are still dozens of armor plates left to go. So if you're watching this and thinking that a model like this feels completely out of reach, remember that every painter has a version of this challenge. The exact challenge changes over time, but the process doesn't. We all start with things that seem impossible, and little by little, one brushstroke at a time, they become things we simply do. And with that, we've reached the end of today's video. I hope you found it helpful and maybe even a little encouraging if you're currently struggling with a project, a technique, or simply trying to figure out your next step in the hobby. If that is the case, I would love to hear about it down in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, leaving a like and subscribing is one of the best ways to support the channel and help me keep creating content like this. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.